Peace and Black Power, Mighty Africans. This is the ABC Political Education Director, Makonnen Tendaji. Welcome to another edition of PE with ABC. The topic for this month is electoral politics, a Pan-Africanist analysis. Let's go ahead and get straight to it. So we're going to go over the basic principles of Pan-Africanism. Then we're going to conduct our analysis, specifically looking at a speech given by Malcolm X, along with various clips of speeches given by our elder H. Rap Brown. And then we're also going to have a discussion on California state propositions. And then we're going to close it with that critical question of, so what do we do? And then we're also going to bring up organizations to join/support. So let's go ahead and get to it. So the principles of Pan-Africanism, as simplistically as we can outline them, are as follows. It is defined as the total liberation and unification of Africa under scientific socialism. This is an ideology that embraces the notion of none of us is free until all of us are free, us being African people. The independence of one African nation is meaningless if the whole of Africa is not independent. And to be clear, this idea of nation transcends colonial geography and neo-colonial national boundaries. And so what I mean is, when we say the independence of the whole of Africa, we're talking about the whole of African people, wherever they may find themselves, nationally, wherever they may find themselves on the globe, they belong to the African nation if they are an African person. So we are striving for the independence of all African people. And then it's also critical to note that Pan-African movement has a mass character, which means that it involves the masses of African people, not just the educated or the skilled, right, or the celebrity class. We're not interested in only organizing a select few or a specific population, right, of our people. And this is also playing into the idea that movement is generated from the bottom up always and not from the top down. And then in any organizing effort, it is important to identify your enemies. So the enemies of Pan-Africanism and the enemies of African people are imperialism, capitalism, and colonialism, and all of the different manifestations and renditions of these three particular enemies are also enemies to us and to our ideology. So to start our analysis, we're going to review the famous speech given by our ancestor Malcolm X, The Ballot or the Bullet. This speech was given on April 12, 1964 in King Solomon Baptist Church in Detroit, Michigan. And now I'm going to simply read several excerpts from this speech. And as I'm reading them, those of us who are tuned in, those of us who are watching, some good critical thinking questions you can ask yourself are, what is the lesson to be learned here? Or what are the lessons to be learned here? Another question is, what is Malcolm X trying to teach us? And finally, a good question is, how does this apply today? So keep those three questions in mind as we conduct our analysis here. So Malcolm X says, until we become politically mature, we will always be misled, led astray, or deceived or maneuvered into supporting someone politically who does not have the good of our community at heart. He goes on to say, the government itself has failed us, and the white liberals who have been posing as our friends have failed us. And once we see that all of these other sources to which we've turned have failed, we stop turning to them and turn to ourselves. This next excerpt is very, very critical. Malcolm X asked the question, why does this loom to be such an explosive political year? Mind you, this speech is given in the year 1964, right? Just under 40 years ago. Because this is the year of politics. This is the year when all of the white politicians are going to come into the Negro community. You never see them until election time. You can't find them until election time. They're going to come in with false promises. And as they make these false promises, they're going to feed our frustrations. And this will only serve to make matters worse. I'm no politician. I'm not even a student of politics. I'm not a Republican, nor a Democrat, nor an American, and got enough sense to know it. Again, critical thinking questions. What are the lessons to be learned here? What is Malcolm X trying to teach us? And how does this apply today? When we engage in critical thinking, when we engage in analysis, we are not asking the question of, do I agree with this or do I disagree with this? That's the very the most basic level of analysis and thinking. When we engage in critical thinking, we are really doing our best to interrogate and to investigate the messages and the themes, right, that are raised in the particular material that we are analyzing. So with this particular speech, again, the question should not be, do I agree or do I disagree? No, we should be asking ourselves, what can we learn? What am I maybe not sure about that I need to do more research on, right? What is Malcolm X trying to say to me? How can I apply this today? And how was it applied in that time period in history, right? So again, critical thinking and analysis is not, do I agree or I disagree, and here's why. That isn't our aim here. So another piece of our analysis has to do with analyzing several clips of lectures from our mighty elder H. Rap Brown, now known as Jamil Abdullah Al-Amin, free our brother Jamil, free all political prisoners. So we're going to take a listen to some of these clips, and again, keep these critical thinking questions in mind. What lessons are to be learned? What is our answer, or what is our elder trying to teach us, right? And how can we apply this today? So let's take a listen to this first clip.
When oppressed people began to evaluate politics, we must understand that we have to create a politics that's relevant to us. We must create a politics that's relevant to our lifestyle. We must create a politics that's relevant to what we do every day. So when we talk about politics, when we talk about the political reality of the black community, we are talking about something that's beyond Democratic and Republican Party. And in that sense, we must understand that we must incorporate a revolutionary ideology that pushes this type of political know-how and political knowledge in the black community.
Okay, so from that first clip, one of the most important statements, of course, the whole clip is important, but one of the most important statements from that clip that I really want to emphasize that we need to, think critically about is, he says, we must understand that we have to create a politics that's relevant to us. The reason why this particular statement is emphasized is it raises questions around what political participation means. Are we discussing participation as outlined by the current powers that be? Are we discussing participation as we've come to know and understand it? Or are we talking about political participation and reimagining what that means? Are we thinking, outside of the box, metaphorically speaking, when it comes to politics, right? Or do we just think of politics as what everybody else thinks of politics? And H. Rap Brown makes it very, very clear that we must understand that we have to create a politics that's relevant to us. Another clip from our elder. This is a very, very major one. He says, the vote has been used as a tool of oppression against Black people. What better way to enslave a man than to give him the vote and call him free? Again, analysis is not asking yourself, okay, do I agree or do I disagree? Analysis seeks to interpret and to interrogate the material that we are being given. So
where do Black people fit into the political spectrum right now? Or should they at all? Well, politics as defined by the geographical and influential spheres of this country is irrelevant to Black people and is irrelevant to the masses of people. The vote has been used as a tool of oppression against Black people. I mean, Camus raises a very good point when he says, what better way to enslave a man than give him the vote and call him free? It does not profit Black people or poor people anything to have the vote and not be able to select the candidates who they want to choose. Now, how can you choose between Lyndon Johnson, Nixon, Agnew, Wallace, and Humphrey? There is no choice. Evil is evil. There's nothing in between that.
Okay, again, critical thinking questions to ask ourselves. What lessons are to be learned here? What is our elder trying to teach us? And how does this apply today? Final clip from our elder. In this clip, he says, when we begin to examine what politics is, we find that it's no more than an apex of white cultural aggression. Take a listen.
See, we do not control politics, so politics as it's known in this country is a weapon against Black people. And we began to examine what politics is, we find out it's no more than the apex of white cultural aggression. Nothing more. When a man tells you that you can only become free through voting, then he is restricting your mobility. He's restricting your freedom. You were born free. You must exercise your rights to be free. That man cannot give you freedom. But when he restricts an individual and tells him that he can only become free by voting, then he has denied you your freedoms.
All right. Again, critical thinking questions to ask ourselves, to ask our peers. What lessons are to be learned here? What is our elder trying to teach us? And how does this apply today? Again, analysis does not mean we simply collect information or collect material and then judge whether we agree or whether we disagree, right? That's a very basic level of analysis. So now moving on to our discussion on the California propositions during this voting year, this election year. And what I'm reviewing here is the official African Black Coalition voter guide. This is available to view on our website, africanblackcoalition.org. Propositions can be the trickiest part of electoral politics to really interpret and understand. And we have created a voter guide that breaks it down as simply as possible. So let's go ahead and review some of the props. So Prop 15, Schools and Communities First. What it does, repeals a state tax structure established in 1978 that capped the amount of taxes paid by commercial and industrial properties. If passed, this is expected to increase local government tax revenues by money that will fund schools and community services, right? So our official recommendation or our stance on Prop 15 is to vote yes on Prop 15. Then we have Prop 16, Equality in Education, Employment, and Contracting. This program does not establish any will, simply removes the current prohibition on governments in considerations of the impact of systemic and historical oppression and exclusion on their institutions. Essentially, this prop repeals the bans on government education, employment, and contracting programs that intentionally address inequities based on race and gender, etc. Our official recommendation is yes on 16. Prop 17, Free the Vote. This proposition will restore the fundamental right to vote to an estimated 50,000 people. This proposition restores the constitutional right to vote to persons who are on parole for felony convictions. This is a very, very major proposition that affects a lot of our people in the state of California. Our official stance is to vote yes on Prop 17. That is our recommendation. Prop 18, the youth vote. What this does is it expands the right to vote to persons who will be age 18 by election day, to special elections and the primary election. As we always say, right, and as our ancestors have always said, the revolution belongs to the youth. So Proposition 18 is it isn't the end all be all in terms of the revolution belonging to the youth. But again, when we talk about political participation, we want to ensure our youth are as emboldened and empowered to participate as possible. Our official stance is to vote yes on Prop 18. And Prop 20, increasing criminal sentencing, parole, and DNA collection. What this does is it adds crimes to the list of violent felonies for which early parole is restricted. We are recommending to vote no on Prop 20. Again, this is the official African Black Coalition 2020 voter guide specific to the state of California and Oakland, California. This is available on our website. Please go ahead and visit our website to download that and to get access to that. Again, the state propositions tend to be the more complicated part to electoral politics, and we've done what we can to make it as simple as possible. Now, back to our discussion, right? There's that inevitable question that comes every so often, right? So what do we do, right? If the answer isn't here or there, or maybe it is here, but then it ends up not being there, we have all either been asked or asked ourselves this question of, so what do we do? I'm gonna play this clip from our mighty ancestor, Kwame Ture, and he kind of outlines, right, what our basic objective should be. Take a listen.
We want power. We don't want money. We don't want fame. We don't want fortune. We don't want popularity. We want power. Power. And power comes only from the organized masses. Power comes only from the organized masses.
All right. So in that clip, Kwame Ture says it, he speaks on, right, the principles of Pan-Africanism when he says power comes only from the organized masses. As we discussed, right, Pan-Africanism the movement characterized by Pan-Africanism is that mass movement, that mass character, and movement is only generated from the bottom up, and we are not organizing one group of our people over another, or excluding any of our people, right? Kwame Ture says power comes only from the organized masses. So for us to aim for organizing anything smaller than or less than the masses of our people is to not truly aim to acquire power, right? And so again, the simple question, or the simple answer to the question, so what do we do? It can be answered simply as study your people, serve your people, organize your people, and love your people. And of course, this is much easier said than done, right? But when that question, so what do we do, is asked, there is no need to come up with a highly, theorized or theoretical answer to that question. There isn't, there isn't a whole bunch of research to do to answer the question, right? As long as you are constructively studying your people, serving your people, organizing your people, and most importantly, loving your people, right? You are fulfilling your responsibility as an African to all African people. And so on that question of organizing your people, some organizations to join and or support, of course, the African Black Coalition. We have New Era Long Beach. They are a chapter of New Era Nation. They are the fastest growing grassroots Black-led, Black-populated organization in the nation. New Era Long Beach is the only chapter in the state of California, so please tap in with them. We have Black Power Blueprint. They are based in St. Louis, Missouri. They are a very, very thorough and grassroots organization. Their primary focus, right, is to combat and ultimately destroy colonialism, right, which is an enemy of Pan-Africanism. You have the All African People's Revolutionary Party. They have chapters all over the world. And then we also have the African People's Socialist Party. Those are just a few examples, right? By no means is this an exhaustive list. And then I like to close out with this. And this is sort of the underlying theme to this notion of electoral politics. This comes from a Burning Spear article entitled U.S. Elections, a Deadly Fraud Perpetrated Against the People, Especially Africans, written on October 31st, 2012. The Burning Spear is the official communication organ. It's the newspaper for the African People's Socialist Party. It says, but one thing is certain, and that participation in the electoral process cannot be substituted for revolutionary organizing of the African working class inside current U.S. borders. This is so crucial for us to understand if we are to conduct a Pan-Africanist analysis of electoral politics. Participation in these processes can in no way, shape, or form supersede, right, the necessary mass organizing and mobilizing that needs to take place among our people. So that has been another edition of PE with ABC. I am the African Black Coalition Political Education Director, Makonnen Tendaji. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can always email me at this email address here. Please tap in with us on social media, Instagram, Twitter. Again, the voter guide that I reviewed earlier is available for your review on our website, AfricanBlackCoalition.org. With that, I will say peace, Black power, mighty Africans, ready for the revolution.